No one expected anything to happen that day, especially not Thomas Reed. He told himself he was only stopping by the shelter out of curiosity, just to look, just to remind himself that some chapters were already closed. Thomas had been a firefighter for nearly 15 years. Search and rescue, collapsed buildings, missing people, long nights that never really ended. And for 5 of those years, he never worked alone. His partner was a dog named Ranger. Ranger wasn't loud, wasn't aggressive, but when everything was chaos, smoke, screams, broken concrete, Ranger never hesitated. He found people no one else could, including Thomas. The night everything changed, a warehouse collapsed during a fire. The structure came down fast, too fast. Thomas remembers heat, pain, and then darkness. What he doesn't remember is how Ranger pulled him out. He only knows what he was told later, that the dog refused to leave him even as the building continued to collapse. Thomas survived. But his body didn't recover the same way. Crushed leg, permanent damage, end of service. Ranger was reassigned soon after. Official paperwork, standard procedure. And just like that, the partnership was over. Years passed. Thomas learned to walk without a uniform, without a radio, without a dog at his side. He avoided shelters, until one quiet afternoon, when he found himself parked outside one anyway. He didn't know why. Inside, the shelter smelled like disinfectant and wet fur. Dogs barked from every direction. Volunteers smiled politely. Thomas kept his head down. He walked past row after row of kennels. Then he stopped. One kennel was completely silent. Inside, an older German shepherd lay with his head resting on his paws, gray fur around the muzzle, scar across one ear. The dog lifted his head slowly and froze. The world seemed to pause. The dog stood up, walked to the gate, and sat, perfect posture, eyes locked forward. Thomas felt his chest tighten. "No," he whispered. The volunteer glanced at the kennel. "Oh, that's Ranger," she said casually. "Sweet dog, very calm, but he doesn't really bond with people." Ranger's eyes never left Thomas. Thomas took a step closer. The dog's tail moved once, just once. Thomas's breath caught. He spoke quietly, almost without realizing it. "Hey, buddy." The reaction was instant. Ranger pressed against the gate, whining softly, not barking, not jumping, recognizing. The volunteer stared. "I've never seen him do that," she said. Thomas's hands began to shake. They opened the gate. Ranger didn't rush out. He approached slowly, carefully, as if afraid the moment would disappear. Then he placed his head against Thomas's leg, the injured one. Thomas broke. He dropped to one knee, gripping the dog's fur as years of guilt and silence collapsed all at once. "I didn't leave you," he whispered. "I swear I didn't." Ranger leaned harder into him, but the reunion didn't end there. As Ranger shifted his weight, Thomas felt it, the tremor, subtle, controlled, familiar. Ranger wasn't just old, he was hurting. The shelter vet was called. The news came quietly. Degenerative nerve damage, old injuries, years of working through pain without slowing down. "He probably pushed himself longer than he should have," the vet said. "For someone." Thomas knew exactly who. Ranger couldn't be adopted easily. Medical costs, age, mobility issues. Thomas didn't hesitate. He signed the papers that same day. At home, Ranger struggled at first. Stairs were hard. Nights were restless, so Thomas slept on the floor beside him. Like before, weeks passed. Ranger improved, not physically, but emotionally. The anxiety faded. The restlessness stopped. He slept, peacefully. One morning, Thomas woke to find Ranger sitting by the door, waiting, not to work, just to be together. When Ranger passed months later, it was quiet. Thomas was there, hand on his chest. "Good job," he whispered. "You did more than enough." The shelter later put up a small plaque. It didn't mention heroics, just one line. Some partnerships don't end when the job does.